Hey guys, I want to talk about 5 reasons we eat other than actually just being hungry. So, there are a lot of drivers behind why we choose to consume food. We find reasons and excuses throughout the day over and over again to eat. So, a big one of those is as humans, we are very emotional eaters. We find reasons to eat for pretty much any emotion. So, that can be anxiety or worry. We snack frequently to sort of distract ourselves from those situations. It can be if we're feeling sad or depressed, we might eat to numb that emotion. Food can help in those moments, and some food truly can, but we often eat the wrong ones. And then positive emotions are not exempt from that. So we also eat a lot of times when we're happy or experiencing euphoria or in a very joyous social setting, because food oftentimes is associated with that. And food can really help to improve or enhance a lot of these emotions. So we really go to it, okay? It's our go-to. We are extremely emotional eaters as humans. So that is reason number one that we eat and really struggle with having healthy boundaries with food. The second one is we eat a lot of times when we're feeling lonely or bored or disconnected, and maybe there was no one to hang out with, or we're just not in a good place in our lives. And so food tends to take the place of social connections, or it takes the place of other positives in our lives because it's always there. For most of us, at least, it's always available. And so we find that we develop these really unhealthy boundaries with food because it never lets us down in terms of it never says no, it never talks back. Like, it's always there and available, and it always brings us, for the most part, that instantaneous feeling of goodness and that instant gratification. So we eat from feeling lonely or bored. That gives us the fulfillment for the moment, oftentimes leads to remorse later. So another reason that we often eat, and I think that we don't understand, it's not actually hunger that we're feeling, it's when we're tired, okay? That's when we mistake fatigue for hunger. And so what I find that kind of happens even with myself is after a long day where I've exerted a lot of energy, perhaps worked a lot of hours, as I'm maybe driving home or arriving home, I cannot stop thinking about eating, right? So it's just food. Oh my goodness, it would be so amazing to eat all this food when I get home. And a big reason for that is that we have exerted so much energy and we are very tired that our self-control goes out the window, and we mistake that tiredness or fatigue for hunger. And we also know that by eating, it is probably going to bring us some joy or a sense of comfort. What's a comfort movement? I think a lot of times when we eat late at night, it's sort of saying, I worked really hard today, and I deserve this moment of comfort with my favorite foods. And a lot of times what we really need to do is just go to bed because our body's crying out for rest, not food, okay? And it might be hunger sometimes. There are points that might be the case. But a lot of times if we eat before bed, what happens is we go to bed, we wake up bloated the next morning, then we experience regret, or we really get frustrated because we have those negative outcomes. So a lot of times we mistake fatigue or tiredness for hunger, and we tend to eat at times when our body just needs rest. So another reason that we eat so frequently, or we develop the eating habits that we have, are from societal norms. So things that we've heard from growing up over the course of years, or we've witnessed and developed these habits, like the fact that we tend to think we should eat 3 times a day. There's that given, and they have names: breakfast, lunch, and dinner, okay? So it's sort of that assumed norm that we would eat at least 3 meals a day, regardless of whether we're actually hungry. It's just a normal thing to do, right? And then we have these other societal norms like that you should clean your plate. You should eat everything on your plate. Don't leave the table until you clean your plate. Or you don't get dessert unless you clean your plate, which is kind of a whole other thing of, hey, let's reward ourselves with perhaps a really unhealthy food because we cleaned our plate even if we were full and our bodies didn't need the food. These societal norms really take us away from paying close attention to our body and being self-aware of the signals our body's sending in terms of saying, hey, I'm satiated, I'm full, you're good, shut it down. even if there's still food on your plate. So societal norms tend to really cause us to overeat in terms of frequency, and then also really give us struggles with portion control. And then the fifth reason that we tend to have challenges with healthy relationships with food is that it's situations that are social pressures or social expectations. Now, I just talked about social norms, but this one's a little bit different. So what I'm referring to is times when we're out at social affairs, little gatherings of parties, work affairs, receptions, different things where we're around friends. It's typically a joyous occasion, or actually it could be different. It could be a post-funeral meal. But food is typically the center point of that fellowship. And we actually have developed, I think, a societal norm, is we believe in order to spend time with other people, it has to involve food. And I think that's another thing we need to get away from. But in terms of being in those social settings, what a lot of times happens that puts us in some really uncomfortable situations and causes us to make some choices with food that we might later regret, is that oftentimes when we're offered food by a host, we don't want to turn it down because we don't want to offend that person. So we want to sort of just go along with it, right? It's presented to us, it's been offered, I'm just going to try it. I don't want to take the risk of disrespecting that person and maybe compromising a future invite. Secondly, we don't want to have to answer questions, okay? So if you say no to an alcoholic beverage or a food appetizer that's offered to you at a social affair, or even in a social setting like at a holiday where maybe you're not that hungry, but food is offered. If we say no, a lot of times people are going to ask, well, what's going on with you? Are you on some kind of diet, or what gives, man? So I can't believe I just said that, but I did. So, those situations can really present awkward for us, and we don't like to have to answer to why we're making healthy lifestyle choices, and that shouldn't be the case, but it happens. So what we typically do is we just give in, okay? And so there are other times too, I think, where social settings, the food is just present, and a lot of times it's unhealthy food. So just the presence of the food around the room, it really causes us to let down our guard and have some unhealthy boundaries with food. So those are 5 reasons that we consume food other than just being hungry, that we confuse our body's signals for hunger, or that we feel pressured, or that we just want to conform to situations. And then ultimately later, a lot of times we look back and we regret those decisions in the moment.